Our next speaker is a research fellow for Desmog blog. He's written and appeared in The Guardian. He's written for and has appeared in The Guardian, The Huffington Post, The Nation, Truth Out, and many other outlets. We're very pleased to welcome him all the way from Madison, Wisconsin tonight, Mr. Steve Horn. Let's give it up.
Thanks for having me, everyone. I'm really glad to see a lot of people out here today. I'm here to kind of make the case further for why a moratorium is needed, and maybe if the other bill that's being proposed passes, why other avenues need to be taken to stop hydraulic fracturing in the state of Illinois. I'm going to show why the regulatory system, the regulatory route is rigged. Has always been rigged. It's been rigged from the start. And I just want to show this a picture of Steve Lipsky's water. He was a source that I've been talking to a lot in the state of Texas. This is water. This is actually his water. There's his former water that he can't drink anymore. He's a man with he's a family man. He has a child who's 2 and another 2 children who are 6 and 7 years old. Now his water comes from paying $1,000 a month in deliveries, so over $10,000 a year just to be able to drink water. He was abandoned by the EPA. And that's history, and this could happen in Illinois. It's happened. Steve Lipsky is just one person. It's happened to people all around the country where fracking has taken place. So just a quick history of the regulatory system and how it's been rigged by the oil and gas industry. I think it's important to point out that under federal law, the EPA cannot actually officially regulate underneath the auspices of the Clean Water Act or the Clean Water Drinking Act, because in 2001, the Bush administration, under Dick Cheney, who, coming off a fresh stint as 5 years as CEO of Halliburton, an oil services company that does fracking, created the Energy Task Force that was where he met with oil and gas executives and asked them what they wanted. What they wanted was inserted into the Energy Policy Act of 2005, and what they wanted was something called the Halliburton loophole, in which the oil and gas industry doesn't have to disclose any of the chemicals it's injecting into the ground when it does fracking, and it doesn't have to follow these 2 laws. It's just exempt from following the laws that have been on the books for decades. So that's the federal level. That was what was on the books between 2005 and now. And then, so Barack Obama was elected in 2008. And lots of people had hoped that he may curtail the Energy Policy Act of 2005. Well, that's still law on the books. But actually what happened under the Obama administration is a beefed up version of the Energy Policy Act of 2005, because under his Department of Energy, he took what was at the federal level and now it's a state level standard for how to deal with fracking. There's something called the DOE Fracking Subcommittee that was all industry representatives, like the Energy Task Force under Cheney, and then one environmental rep, who was representing the Environmental Defense Fund. They came up with these standards for disclosure that are actually pretty much identical to the Halliburton loophole. And I think it's important to note who is the EDF and what have they done and where is their money flown, or what's the money flow in EDF in the past couple of years. It's especially relevant to Illinois because a couple of co-sponsors of the Sierra Club, or not co-sponsors, but supporters of the bill are the Sierra Club and the NRDC. So under Mayor Bloomberg, he has something called the Clean Heat Initiative, in which gas is basically being promoted as a clean source for heating in New York City from the Marcellus Shale. That was an initiative that he teamed up with the EDF on. He also gave $50 million to the Sierra Club for its Beyond Coal campaign, which Chesapeake Energy also gave $25 million to. So basically $75 million to that Beyond Coal campaign is going to support shale gas as an alternative to coal burning. And then if you look a year later, now in 14 states, EDF is pushing responsible regulation. That's the type of regulation that's in this other alternative bill that has 26 co-sponsors in Illinois today. So anyway, I think I just want to say something quickly, that this is actually now a model bill in the state houses around the country. It's being pushed by 2 bodies. One of them is called the American Legislative Exchange Council. One of them is called the Council of State Governments. Between the 2 of them, this bill has been pushed in like over 10, 15 states. It's passed in Colorado, Pennsylvania. The original model is in Texas. And part of this bill in Section 77 is actually in your bill in Illinois in HB 2615, which is the regulation bill, which, as will be seen, this has been a disastrous bill in many states. So how has it played out? There's an earthworks report, the year is wrong, it's actually from September of 2012, that shows that in 3 of the states where this bill is passed, these states don't have enough inspectors to even look at the wells. Up to 91% of wells in some of these states have never been inspected since 2008, so even though there's regulations on the books, there are no inspectors to oversee them. If you look at regulatory agencies around the country, they're being defunded, including in Illinois, which in the past decade, half of its funding has gone by the wayside. It now has 12 inspectors to overlook not just the gas industry, but any other extractive industry. It can't and won't be done, and that's actually the point of this bill, and that's why the industry supports it. Another example is disclosure, and what they mean by disclosure. In the first 6 months of Texas's bill, which was the model for the nation, the exemption for disclosing what chemicals are injecting into the ground has been utilized 19,000 times. One representative says that the exemption is big enough to drive a truck through. So that's basically what's going to happen in Illinois too. And again, the body that's been tasked to oversee chemicals and what chemicals are being injected into the ground is actually just an industry front. It's being run by a PR corporation whose clients include the biggest lobbying firm for the gas industry, ANGA, Chesapeake Energy, again, who I mentioned before. And as I've kind of been pointing to, this is by design. They give the fig leaf of regulations, and it's just basically running roughshods over community in the United States. And now it's this model of how the United States does it is not only is the gas actually flowing to other countries around the world, as Bill talked about, it's also through the State Department initiative, they're actually going to other countries and saying, here's how to do fracking. So it's a double export commodity. So what do? There's a moratorium bill in the books. That's a possibility. If it passes, that's great. As of now, it has 1 co-sponsor. The other one has 26, and it's not actually a lose situation. If the bill doesn't pass, if the bad one passes, there's still many ways to fight back that have been done places around the country. I think the model that needs to be looked at is the Community Environmental Legal Defense Fund model. They look at what do we do at the local level with our local governments to get these industries out of our cities, municipalities. There's a great article in The Nation magazine from February called Rebel Towns, where it shows what they're doing, and the big thing they're doing is passing nature Bill of Rights bills or bans. So yeah, a good way of thinking about it is collective nonviolent civil disobedience through municipal lawmaking. That's how they describe it. They look at using the local governments to usurp state and federal government, because as has been seen, those 2 levels of government have been bought and paid for. And this bill has passed, these local bans and human rights bills, nature Bill of Rights bills. One of them was actually passed in the country of Bolivia in 2008. It's also passed in Longmont, Colorado recently, Fort Collins, Dryden, New York, and many cities around the United States are looking at this new home rule model of how to get the industry out of their communities. And then there's another community, Woodstock, New York, is actually looking at passing a bill, and did pass a bill on criminalizing fracking. That's a little more far-fetched of an example, but they actually did pass one. And it actually gives criminal sanctions to coming in your community and fracking. So it's just looking at making your community a sovereign. And so here's how that criminalizing bill works. Like I said, it's only passed in 1 city, but if you really want to start fighting back, that's one example. And then I'll just say that under Illinois law itself, under this 5th District Appellate Court decision, it gives your communities and municipalities, cities, the right to ban drilling in cities. So under Illinois state law, at least as of now, you have the right to do this. It's a next step if the moratorium bill does not pass and the other bill passes. Something to think about. So, I just want to close by this little quote from Margaret Mead, which reads, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed people can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has." So I wish, I think things will go well if you just keep that in mind and, commit to some of the examples of other cities are using around the country. Thanks for having me.